Duncan here. So today we're going to be diving into this audit of designrush.com, specifically the agency section. And within that, the data that I've got here to base this audit on is basically the top 10,000 keywords that rank in the US. So you can see some of the numbers here. The traffic value is essentially what it would cost them to get the traffic from Google search ads if they weren't ranking for this via SEO. So the top pages that they have is essentially web design and development, digital marketing, SEO, and then we've got a really popular agency. This is a Canadian agency that ranks really highly and they get a lot of traffic from. So like I said, I got this data out of SEMrush and then exported that as a CSV and then used polars and some Python code to essentially process it and put it into different buckets and extract things like the top pages. And basically the code is, I've put it up on GitHub if you want to go take a look. So top keywords by traffic. So again, we see this is a very popular agency, individual agency at the top. I think that's the only one in the top 10 that's just an individual company. So they obviously, I am guessing they have a lot of brand search traffic, and then their potential customers want to also research them before they sign up. And again, that's a really great positioning of a directory, is being able to kind of benefit from the brand search volume of the companies in the directory. And then we've got, again, different kind of variations on web design, basically in the top, and then IT outsourcing and SEO. But essentially it's very focused on web design and development. So when we're looking at kind of what type of other content to create to add even more value to the site and the agency directory, then it would make sense to double down on what's working and create more web design related content. And again, if you look at the top pages here, very similar. So we've also got mobile app design, IT services, video marketing, all the kinds of things you would expect from a directory that's focused on B2B marketing agencies. So some of the quick wins, this is just filtered by page queries that are ranking on page one, that it looks like there's an opportunity there to boost them further up onto page one, because obviously proportionally way more people click the first result and then the top three results relative to the other results on page one. So if we're able to increase these, any of these really, ranking for these more high intent ones like SEO agency near me rather than just app would probably be the focus here. So yeah, things like web design agency, if you get that from position 7 to, let's say, position 3, that would be probably a pretty significant impact in terms of the number of leads generated and obviously revenue. So we'll get in more into the recommendations for how to actually do that, but essentially improving the internal linking and on-page could push these into the top 3, and that would have a really significant impact. So just a little look here at the SERP features, so the search engine result page, what was actually there. Some of the notable ones here to look at is the local pack. So obviously we do see a lot of city-specific, location-specific category pages, so kind of web design in Texas, web design in Austin. So if you are seeing the local pack, that's something to note there, because those do tend to get a very high click-through rate. It's not necessarily a lot that you can do about that as a directory, but it's good to know that that's there essentially. Video, you can do a lot more about that as a directory business. So if it may make sense to add short videos, there's a number of different formats that they could create here, which could kind of give an overview of a whole category, or they could be compilations of reviews for specific agencies. Anyway, we'll get more into recommendations, but this is some of the ways that you can use this analysis of the SERP features there. So overall, the agency directory is obviously a really core part of the business. There's actually a lot of traffic from individual agency pages, so benefiting from that brand search. So what we could do here is also find the different location pages, the geo pages, and see if there's things there that we could do to diversify a bit more, whilst protecting the core hub pages. So again, we'll look more about what you can actually do with that. So the commercial versus transactional intent. So more highly commercial. Again, this is based on SEMrush's analysis of what's commercial and what's transactional. So you can take this with a bit of a pinch of salt, but we've got these company/agency near me type of keywords. So those are probably very high value to go after, because that's quite a high intent if someone's actually at that stage of the journey of finding an agency. So again, prioritizing those would make sense. And like I said, the video pages, there's also lots of people also ask /AI overview. So this is another area where improving the FAQ content, and for video, obviously adding it could be short explainer videos on the hub pages. And again, going back to that list earlier, this is some of the quick wins. So SEO agency near me, web development company, PPC company, Google Ads agencies, web design agencies. These are all keywords that there's an opportunity to get higher up onto page one. They're on page one, but get higher up within page one, and that would have a really significant impact. So looking at kind of the actual actions to update on these within the templates. So basically test different variations of the title in H1. So you could try things like adding comparisons, price ranges, basically just trying to align it better with the search intent, and then improve the click-through rate. And if you improve the click-through rate and people stay on the page and they get value from it, that's going to really significantly help with ranking. So if you're able to get it a higher click-through rate on something that's on position 7, that can potentially help get it higher up onto page 1. And I'm going to kind of stop going on about how important that is, but it's I think we've established that's pretty important. So and again, the geo pages, so adding more information about the clients. Obviously there's a lot of rich information there already, but just adding even more value. Potentially you can even add comparison pages as well, if there's actually some search volume for that. Then we could look at whether, doing these experiments. So like I said, adding better FAQs to target people also ask, and AI overviews to try and increase the click-through rate. Adds better internal linking on the hub pages. So basically there's a few opportunities where the internal linking is there's parts built into the template, but it's missing opportunities for contextual linking, and I'll get to more of that in a second. So also, like I said, short videos, if those are on YouTube as well, then YouTube is very highly used as a source in AI search as well, so that's another opportunity there. I'm not covering AI search or LLM search specifically here, but a lot of these core principles are going to apply and mean that you get used as a source in LLMs even more. So risks and how to mitigate those risks. So keeping an eye on the declining keywords, essentially keeping track of that weekly or monthly, just to make sure that you're doing everything you can to prevent those declining. So that can be things like improving the freshness, or looking at information gain versus other pages that are ranking. And again, it's great that there's really popular pages, but the risk is obviously concentrated, so it's a double-edged sword. So prioritizing those for frequent refreshes, making sure the internal linking completely makes sense for that. So there's like a 3-week sprint that you could do here. So again, depending on the priorities of the overall site, but for example, you could implement the FAQ blocks, add additional links, and then the second week publish a lot of explainer videos. So you could develop a template, and then you can produce those quite efficiently. And then third week you review if there's been any impact of that. So like I said, with the internal linking, there are a lot of internal links in the template, but then there are, for example, in the search engine optimization agency category, we have the list of links at the bottom to other similar or related services, but there isn't that contextual link. So there's paragraphs of text, for example, this one here, where it could link to the content marketing page, but it doesn't. So, and essentially contextual links are important for Google to understand in a more semantic way how these things relate to each other. And again, same thing with the geo links. So finding ways to introduce these in a contextual way rather than just having it kind of added on at the bottom. So another thing to test out here would be doing some A/B testing of the titles and H1s. So, for example, the current tags for the SEO category page would be, so right now it's top SEO agencies, September 2024 rankings, Design Rush, and the H1 is top SEO agencies. So you could try different variations and see what works best. So find vetted SEO agencies near you, 2025 directory, Design Rush. So that would potentially help with ranking for those local queries, maybe. And then obviously for the location variants of that, there's different versions of that you could test as well. And like I said, all of these things, if you're able to increase that click-through rate, then it's going to be another signal to Google, and it's going to be something that can have a relatively fast impact if it moves in a positive direction. So, here's some other ideas with the web development page. So similar kind of thing. So you could change it to top web development companies for custom projects, 2025, Design Rush. So the idea being that custom projects could maybe be higher intent. Obviously, these are all just ideas for experiments. So, we've got ideas here for PPC as well. And you could use something like, if you're not already using it, Design Rush is not already using it, then you could use something like SEOtesting.com. So this allows you to set up these kinds of experiments and just really easily keep track of what's actually working and what's not, and kind of isolate these variables as much as possible. So just to recap, the on-page recommendations so far, it's mostly about internal linking, improving the FAQs, and testing those different title and H1 tags to see if you're able to improve the click-through rate. So in terms of the rest of the recommendations, we've got off page. So essentially, it had a look at the backlink profile relative to competitors like Clutch, and it's overall a good profile, but it could always be better, right? So the main thing here that I think could make sense is really gathering more first-party data. So using the data that's already available behind the scenes, but also doing things like surveying agencies, which I think there's a lot of opportunities to do, and then using that to get digital PR. So there's getting high-value links from kind of trade publications in the industry. And then technical, so there's a few things with schema. Core Web Vitals is not great. The experience of real Chrome users essentially is what it's measuring here. So I would try to improve that. I do see that there's effective caching, using Cloudflare. These are all good, but there's probably more opportunities there to improve that experience for Chrome users, make the site a bit more lightweight and snappy. And then I'll dive in more to the out-of-box ideas that I come up with here to improve it, but very quickly, basically using other data sources that the competitor directories are not necessarily using is one of the ideas, using podcast data. And then the other one is basically speeding up the matching experience, making it almost instant with AI. And that's going to improve engagement, improve the conversion rate of the site, and ultimately all those things. Certainly the engagement and user satisfaction are going to be things that search engines are going to notice over time, and that's going to help with rankings. So off-page recommendations other than the digital PR, obviously. So it is very focused on the brand and .com domains. That makes sense, but so basically I would continue with trying to get brand mention links, and also if DesignRush did go with this more kind of digital PR strategy, then obviously that would produce opportunities for links to things like studies and research, things like that, and that would help with the diversity of the links. And then if there's an intention to go after non-US agency listings as well more, so for example, there's small countries like Norway that it's not going to be a huge amount of traffic, but it is quite high value, so potentially creating more localized content for them, that could make sense. Obviously it's more of a business strategy decision, but it's could make sense to do that. So PR ideas, these are essentially based on surveying agencies and then kind of feeding that data back to them. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but essentially, each one of these could be interactive to some degree. It could be a report, but also with things like the agency rates barometer, that could be a live dashboard. You could update people monthly with that. And then we've got some of these kind of trade publication sites that I would say, so things like Adweek, The Drum, these are really highly relevant sites for this type of data, and they would love to publish these kind of things, I think. And obviously these are, again, very having those high relevance domains for the agency space. I think that would be really beneficial. So then this is essentially just a summary of the different kind of services here, where the majority of the traffic goes to. So web design, SEO, web development, those could really be one category potentially. Digital marketing, PPC. So really it's again, not a surprise from looking at the other content so far. But essentially, this is, it, again, depends on the business strategy, whether it makes sense to continue doubling down on web design and digital marketing, or if the business wants to diversify more. But probably the easiest thing to do would be to double down on what's already working with web design, digital marketing, and produce more content and create that survey data based around that as well, and get more digital PR for that and related content. So, this is just some rough estimates based on, getting some of those quick wins into the top 3. I could potentially generate an extra almost just under 53,000 extra clicks a month in the US, and that would equate to about $500,000 in terms of the traffic value if you were to try and buy it from Google Ads. Probably the true value is significantly more. Again, I don't know behind the scenes the conversion rates and the revenue that's generated from selling the agency leads, but I imagine these are very high value leads. I imagine that the true value of this is significantly more than that. And again, I mentioned the local results. So this is a quick look at some of the locations. What are the most popular ones? Well, it looks like Dallas, Texas is pretty popular. Then Atlanta, Georgia, Florida, New Jersey. I wouldn't necessarily have guessed this, but it looks like there's some opportunities to produce more specific content around these locations that would then increase the information gain score with these specific locations. So obviously there's different things that make sense to buyers of agency services in these locations, and it would make sense to even go ahead and produce video content, things like that would really help there. So now the out of the box ideas. So the first one here is, again, it's that kind of information gain angle and finding unique data. So aside from doing the digital PR where you survey agencies, this is actually just taking existing data that is out there on the internet, but it's not really leveraged by the competitors. So this is about turning the agency directory into more of a competitive intelligence platform, really leveraging this unique data that is out there on the internet. But again, it's just not structured in a way that really anyone's taking advantage of for SEO. So, and I think podcasts are a great opportunity because lots of agency founders and people who are using agencies are going on podcasts and talking about campaigns. They're talking about their experiences starting agencies. Now some out-of-the-box ideas for growing DesignRush beyond kind of just traditional SEO. So this one is using the concept of information gain. So instead of use what I mentioned with the digital PR ideas and surveying agency owners, this is actually about finding data that is out there on the internet, but it isn't currently being leveraged by any of the competitors, and it's not really in a structured format. And I think there is this opportunity with podcasts because lots of agency owners and people who use agencies go on podcasts and they talk about their experience with them. They talk about their experience founding agencies, doing different campaigns, and that data is out there, but it's not used in a way where it's searchable, and it could be used to really enrich the directory. So you could create profiles on agency founders. You could add that data to the agency profile pages. You could also do industry trend analysis. So that could even be something that is able to be used as digital PR as well. So you could analyze the transcripts of, let's say, 50 different recent podcasts where it's agency owners talking about different campaigns, and then you could produce a trend analysis that is based on that. And you could also use this in terms of when you're having users compare different agencies. So there's so many opportunities around this, and it's all going to be quite unique because at the moment Google obviously doesn't search podcasts. So by surfacing this data and structuring it in different formats, it could add a lot of value and it could really help with SEO. So how would you actually do this? There's two ways. So you could use a service like Podscan.fm, which has a pipeline where they ingest basically all the podcasts of the world, and then it allows you to search through them, and has an API, so you could kind of connect this to your workflows. And you could also build this yourself. So you could select a number of podcasts to monitor, and then use something like DeepGram to get the transcriptions, and then something like Gemini to then create a workflow that extracts all this data. So I think could be a really amazing idea for the site to really enrich it, and it's not available anywhere else unless you want to go ahead and listen to all these podcasts, which obviously can take a very long time. So the second kind of out of the box idea here for DesignRush goes beyond traditional SEO. It's about offering more value for the site overall. Basically, it's an AI powered agency matching service. So instead of the current setup where there's a call to action button where you can, as a user, you can fill out a lead form, and it basically promises that you're going to have someone contact you and help you find an agency. So firstly, like if as a user, if I'm looking for an agency, then I might not want to kind of open myself up to getting lots of calls, the unknown sales process. And also, I don't know how long it's going to take. So the AI powered service here, it could help with that by speeding the whole thing up. And also people are a lot more used to now just asking things like ChatGPT for advice, asking for recommendations and comparing services. And it's going to feel more like that versus filling out a form where they're going to go into a sales call. So pretty simple to set up. Basically, the way it would work is it collects progressively more information about the person as they go through. So starting off with just entering their website, and in the background, the AI can go ahead and crawl their website and gather more information about them. Could even grab their LinkedIn profile if that makes sense to do that. And then it's already going to have a lot of information and context. It can then start to ask questions, so project type, budget, timeline, sort of basic things like that. And at that point, then it'd be able to ask follow-up questions that are more intelligent. If you've ever used something like deep research inside ChatGPT, then you'll know that you can enter an initial query and then it comes back with follow-up questions to refine the query. So it'd be like, I want to get a website designed for my construction company, and then it'll come back and say, okay, do you have an existing website? Do you have any references of other websites that you really like? What are the main challenges with your business here that you're hoping that the website's going to help with? This kind of thing. Just making it more specific to them. And this would obviously could be a huge benefit in terms of the generating more leads. Also having higher intent leads because they're further down the funnel essentially by doing this. But also provides more value for the user because they get quicker, better results. And also the SEO benefits are things like increased time on the site, lower bounce rate, page depth increase, and return visits. So all of these kind of things are going to be signals back to Google and other search engines that this is a really valuable website that is meeting the search intent, and people are basically, getting a lot of value from it. So also you could potentially take that data that people are sharing and then use that to then create more content. So if you're noticing patterns in the kinds of things that people are asking for, you can do that to add better FAQ content to existing pages, or even create new pages based on that. So this could not only be a great asset for the business, but it could really help the users, and it could also have an SEO benefit as well. So the kind of plan of how you would implement this at Design Rush, it really obviously depends on, I don't know exactly how the team's structured, how much budget there is available to do a number of these things, kind of how it works with the development team and how quickly they're able to move and things like that. But potentially, here's a plan of how it could work. So month one, looking at some of the foundational things, schema, internal links, starting off those content experiments to increase the click-through rate with the H1s and things like that. Trying to improve the core web vitals, so the real user experience on Chrome. Potentially setting up better analytics, so that it's really clear when these things are working or not, if that's not already been done. Month two, you could look at the local SEO, better linking between the hubs, adding local business schema in places where if it's not been added, starting the digital PR campaign, or the selected campaigns, improving the content refresh process and starting that off. Again, adding another layer of internal links, so the contextual internal linking, and then starting off the AI matching product improvement. Month three could be about actually launching the podcast intelligence, the initial phase of that. So potentially could be something like 10 founder profile pages, service hubs. So finalizing additional set of service clusters, finding more opportunities for longer tail targeted programmatic pages, increasing the testimonials and case studies for individual agencies where there's, for example, the agency that's generating a lot of traffic, maybe you could improve their page further, get that page to number one, potentially. And again, like, I don't know all of the details about conversion rates behind the scenes and things, but potentially you could be looking at moving a lot of keywords to the top 3, which would have a pretty huge impact on click-through rate, targeting a 1.5% percentage point click-through rate increase in the top pages with those title experimentations, and trying to get to 100 qualified leads a month from the matching widget within the first 6 weeks. Again, this is all dependent on existing conversion rates and things. There's a lot of unknowns here, but this is kind of the way that Design Rush could structure this. So I know this has been pretty long, but hopefully this has been helpful in terms of the audit. Like I said, the code for how I put this together, I put this up on GitHub here, so you can go take a look at that, see the kind of methodology behind that. And yeah, appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Right, thanks, bye.